Ladies and gentlemen, there are times in life when we stand before what appears to be a closed door. The weight of uncertainty presses upon us and we worry. We worry about the future, about the unknown, about whether the path before us will lead to success or failure. It is only natural to want control, to search for security in the midst of chaos. But the truth we must hold on to is this: God will open the door. So don't worry. When we look around at the world and see the confusion, the turmoil and the pain, it is easy to feel overwhelmed. It is easy to wonder, how will I make it through? But that's when we must remember that we are not navigating life alone. We are not left to our own devices wandering in the dark. There is a presence that surrounds us, a guiding hand that will, in its perfect time, open the right doors for us. Now, some of us may object. We may think, but I don't see the door. I don't see the way forward. Yet faith calls us to see beyond our immediate circumstances. We are not meant to understand everything at once, just as a child is not expected to know everything their parents do. What matters is that we trust the one who holds the future. He sees what we cannot. His knowledge and wisdom are far beyond our own. Indeed, worry is a form of misplaced trust. When we worry, we are in essence saying to ourselves, I can handle this better than God. But faith invites us to surrender that worry. Faith says, I will trust that the door will open when it's meant to, not when I want it to. The beauty of that trust lies in the freedom it brings. We are no longer bound by the chains of anxiety, because we know that we are cared for. We know that our steps are being guided even when we cannot see the path clearly. And yes, sometimes doors are closed. Sometimes we face a season of waiting. It may seem frustrating, even painful, but it is in these moments that God is doing His work in us. Perhaps He is preparing us for something greater, something we cannot yet comprehend. The delay is not a denial, it is a divine shaping of our character. As we wait patiently, we are being refined, strengthened, and readied for what lies ahead. When that door finally opens, we may be surprised at the ways it leads us. The path may not be what we envisioned. It may be different, but it will always be good. For God's provision is not only practical, but also perfect in its timing. What He opens for us is the doorway to peace, to purpose, to fulfillment. So, my friends, don't worry. Let go of the anxious grip that clings to the future and surrender to the one who holds it in His hands. The door will open in its time, and you will walk through it not in fear, but in faith. You will not have to fight for your place. It will be given to you. And in that moment, you will see that all along you were never walking alone. The one who opens the door was beside you, guiding you, even when you couldn't see. He has a purpose for your life that is greater than anything you could imagine. So trust. Wait. And know that God will open the door. When life feels uncertain, it's natural to want to understand every step, every turn, and every decision that we face. The human desire for control often makes it difficult to surrender to what we can't see, especially when things feel out of our grasp. However, there is a profound truth that we must hold tightly. There is a divine plan at work, one that is often beyond our comprehension. Trusting in a divine plan means believing that everything has purpose. It means understanding that there is a bigger picture that we cannot always see. When God opens a door, it is not simply a random or meaningless event. It is part of a carefully woven design that is meant to lead us towards something greater. But this trust requires us to accept that our understanding is limited. We may not know the exact reason why something happens, but we can trust that it is a part of something good, even when the immediate situation appears to be less than ideal. This trust is not based on blind optimism or wishful thinking. It is rooted in the conviction that the Creator, who knows us deeply, is orchestrating our lives with purpose. His plans for us are not to harm us, but to give us hope and a future. When doors seem closed, when we are in the midst of challenges, we are invited to trust that this moment is part of a greater, unfolding journey. It's a call to remember that even in the face of adversity, we are not abandoned, but rather being guided towards something better. The divine plan is not a static blueprint, but a dynamic force that molds and shapes our lives, leading us toward deeper fulfillment and understanding. To trust in this divine plan means to relinquish the need to control everything and to rest in the knowledge that God is sovereign. It requires us to let go of anxiety and to embrace the peace that comes from knowing we are part of a story larger than ourselves. Even when we cannot see the end of the story, we can trust that the author of our lives knows where the narrative is headed. Life can often feel like a journey through a fog. There are paths, but they are not always clearly marked, and it's easy to feel disoriented. But just as a child trusts the guidance of their parents, we too must place our trust in the unseen guidance of God, who knows the way even when we cannot see it. Faith in unseen guidance calls us to trust that we are not walking through life alone, even when the path ahead is unclear. Faith is about believing in something beyond what we can physically touch or see. It's not just an intellectual acknowledgement of facts, but a deep inner conviction that the one who created us is leading us with love and wisdom. In times of uncertainty, we are called to trust that God is guiding us, even when we cannot perceive His presence. Just as a parent's unseen hand may guide a child across a busy street, God's hand is at work in our lives, leading us safely, even when we don't feel it or understand it. Faith in unseen guidance is also about cultivating the ability to listen, to tune our hearts to the subtle promptings and quiet assurances of God's Spirit. We might not hear an audible voice, but the guidance comes in quiet ways, through the stillness of prayer, through the wisdom of others, through a deep sense of peace or conviction. It's an invitation to pay attention to the moments when God leads us, often in ways that are gentle and unassuming. This faith is not about having all the answers, but about trusting that we are never truly lost. God sees what we cannot, and He knows where we need to go. His guidance may not always follow the paths we would choose, but it is always purposeful. Trusting in unseen guidance is an act of surrender, acknowledging that there is a higher wisdom at work in our lives that will lead us exactly where we need to be at the right time. Worry is a common human experience, one that often arises from our desire to control outcomes. When we cannot predict or shape the future, we worry about what might happen. We worry about our health, our relationships, our careers, and our ability to provide. Worry often comes from a place of fear, the fear that something will go wrong, that we won't be prepared for what lies ahead, or that we won't be able to handle what comes. But worry is ultimately a form of disbelief. When we worry, we are acting as if we are the sole ones responsible for the course of our lives, as if everything depends on our ability to control it. Worry feeds on the illusion that we can manipulate outcomes, that the future rests on our shoulders. The truth, however, is that there are things far beyond our control, and no amount of worrying will change that. True freedom comes when we let go of worry and place our trust in the one who holds all things together. Jesus teaches us not to worry about tomorrow, for today has enough troubles of its own. Worry, instead of preventing negative outcomes, often leads to unnecessary stress and anxiety. It clouds our ability to think clearly, to take decisive action, and to experience peace in the present moment. To be free from worry is to acknowledge that we are not in control of everything, but that we are under the care of a loving God who is. It is a call to trust that our needs will be met, that the doors that should open will open, and that we will be provided for in ways we may not yet understand. The freedom from worry allows us to live with a sense of peace, to embrace the present, and to have confidence in the future. Knowing that we are not walking through life alone. Openness to the divine is about cultivating a posture of receptivity, an attitude of willingness to embrace God's will even when it surprises us, Often we approach life with expectations, ideas of how things should unfold, when they should unfold, and what the end result should look like. However, openness means releasing those expectations and allowing God to work in ways we may not anticipate. God doesn't always open doors that fit neatly into our preconceived plans. Sometimes the path He offers is unexpected or takes us in a direction that doesn't make sense to us. Yet being open to the divine means recognizing that God knows us better than we know ourselves. His plans for us are greater than anything we could design for ourselves. So when He opens a door, we are called to walk through it with faith, even if we don't know where it will lead. This openness also requires a humble heart, a heart that is willing to surrender our own desires in exchange for God's will. It's easy to hold tightly to our plans, to resist changes or challenges, and to only accept what fits into our narrow vision. But God's ways are not our ways, and His wisdom far exceeds ours. When we are open to the divine, we are acknowledging that His plans, even if they differ from ours, are always for our good. Openness to the divine is not about passivity or blind obedience, but about a willingness to trust and follow where God leads, knowing that He has a purpose for our lives that is far beyond what we can grasp. It's an invitation to embrace the unexpected, to recognize God's hand in the unfolding of our lives, and to follow His direction wherever it may lead. Life is rarely a straight path. Instead, it is often a winding road with unexpected twists and turns, periods of waiting, and times of uncertainty. One of the greatest challenges we face in life is patience. The ability to trust in God's timing, especially when things seem to be moving slowly or not at all. Patience in the process means accepting that growth and change take time. Just as a seed must take root, grow, and develop before it can bear fruit, so too must we go through seasons of preparation before we can step into the fullness of what God has for us. In those seasons of waiting, it can be easy to become frustrated, to wonder why things aren't progressing as we hoped, or to doubt that God is working at all. But patience calls us to trust that there is purpose in the waiting, even when we don't see it. Often, the process of waiting is not about achieving something immediately, but about refining our character. During times of uncertainty, God is at work shaping our hearts, deepening our faith, and preparing us for the future. Patience allows us to endure through difficulties, knowing that these struggles are not in vain. We are being molded into something stronger, wiser, and more equipped for the future that God has in store. When doors are closed, or when the path forward is unclear, we are called to be patient. This patience is not passive resignation, but an active trust that, in time, the right door will open. It is a surrendering to God's perfect timing, recognizing that the delay is part of His greater plan. By being patient, we allow God to work in us, shaping us for the good things He has prepared for us. There is a profound comfort in knowing that God cares for us deeply and that He provides for our needs. In a world that often leaves us feeling uncertain and vulnerable, it is reassuring to know that we are not alone, that we are watched over and cared for by a loving Creator. God's care is not just an abstract concept, it is a tangible reality that we experience in the details of our lives. When we trust in God's provision, we acknowledge that He knows exactly what we need, even when we don't. He provides not just for our physical needs, but for our emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. This trust allows us to release anxiety over material concerns, knowing that God will take care of us in ways we may not anticipate. Whether it is through tangible provisions such as food, shelter, or finances, or through the more subtle forms of care, strength, peace, wisdom, God is present, guiding and sustaining us. Moreover, God's provision is not limited to what we think we need in the moment. He often provides in unexpected ways, opening doors at the right time, supplying what we need just when we need it. His care for us is thorough and all-encompassing, reminding us that we are not self-sufficient but deeply reliant on His goodness and generosity. Trusting in this care and provision is an invitation to let go of worry, to trust that everything we need will be provided at the right time. Surrender is perhaps one of the most challenging aspects of faith. It is the act of letting go of our own agendas, desires, and attempts to control the outcome. It requires us to release our hold on the things we cling to most tightly and to trust that God's way is better. Surrender is not about passivity or resignation. It is about recognizing that God's wisdom far exceeds our own. When we surrender, we align ourselves with His will, trusting that His plans for us are more beautiful and fulfilling than anything we could design for ourselves. It is a surrender not only of our circumstances, but also of our hearts, letting go of fear, pride, and self-sufficiency, and opening ourselves to God's guidance. This call to surrender is not a one-time event, but a continuous practice of yielding our will to God's. Every day we face the choice to hold on to our own desires or to let go and trust that He knows what is best. In this surrender we find peace, knowing that we are not responsible for everything. We are free to walk the path God has for us, trusting that He will open the doors we need to walk through and close the ones we do not. In life, we are called to trust in God's divine plan, embrace His guidance, and surrender our worries to Him. When we face closed doors or uncertain paths, we must have faith that He will open the right doors in His perfect timing. Patience, openness, and trust in His care allow us to walk through life with peace and assurance. By releasing our need to control every outcome, we can experience the freedom of trusting that God is always at work, guiding, providing, and preparing us for what lies ahead. With Him we need not worry, our steps are secure.